Good evening, everyone. So, guys, if you remember in the previous session till now, we have covered on-premises infrastructure explanation, AWS account creation, cloud computing, cloud model, etc. And most important is your basic server, right? And your networking concepts. And in the previous session, we have seen each and everything, or you can say components related to your VPC. If you want to create a VPC, so what all things or what all services you need to take care, like your security group, your subnets, your route table, your internet gateway, and as a security point of view, there are some firewall types, right? That is NACL, NACL is there. And in today's session, we are mainly going to see about that EC2, how we are going to launch an instance in your VPC, in your virtual private cloud, guys. And this could be your Linux machine, this could be your Windows machine, right? So before that, do you have any doubt? All of you remember this diagram, correct? This is your VPC, correct? Now, since we have currently, as per this diagram, and the last VPC which we have created, if you guys remember, let's go to our home and let's click on this VPC, correct? And if you click on your VPC, correct, so you can see this is our VPC, yes or no, guys? Correct. So this is the virtual private cloud, or this is the data center which you have created. But have you deployed any VM on top of it? Even though you have subnets, right? You have two subnets. If you go to this one, so you can see from here also that you have two subnets. Yes or no, guys? You can see this one, right? And how many available IPs are there? 251, 251. Why we have 251, 251 available IPs are there? Because we have taken a range of /24 for subnet 1 /24 for the subnet 2, right? So if you calculate with the formula which I have explained in the previous session, so you are going to get 251 IPs, okay? But the point over here is that how you are going to deploy a VM on top of your VPC, which is here. Suppose if I have to deploy a VM on zone 1 or subnet 1, right? So how I am going to deploy that, and what all configuration we need to choose, whether it's a Windows machine or it's a Linux machine, how we can connect to that Linux machine, what all processes are there to connect to that Linux machine, what all tools are required to connect to that Linux machine, right? So everything we are going to see. Types of instances, we are going to see how many types of instances is there, what is a what type of a hardware we need to use over here, right? So each and everything we are going to see in this topic, guys. Okay, so first thing is that, suppose if you have to deploy a template or a virtual machine or an instance or a virtual engine, everything is same, guys, correct? You have heard a VM, can you can call it as a instance, right? A virtual machine can also call it as an instance, correct? Yes or no, guys, tell me.
Yes, sir.
Correct. So and that also you can call it as a, so in AWS, we call this as a AMI, guys. So this is what the today's topic, and here I have mentioned that is in EC2. See, like normally in general, if you know in virtualization, we can call it as a virtual machine, right? So in virtualization, we call it as a virtual machine. So in AWS, what name you have given to that virtual machine? So in AWS, you have given the name as a Amazon machine image. Okay, so this is basically a template that contains the necessary information to launch an EC2 instance. Okay, so elastic cloud computing and AMI can be based on different operating system, correct? And architectures and software configuration, there are several types of AMI in AWS based on their source type of configuration and operating system. What do you mean by this? Okay, so if you come over here, yeah, so see here, if you know, so basically if you talk about this Amazon, so basically this AMI is your hardware type, okay? You can also call it as a hardware, okay? And this, because why we are calling it as a hardware, because you know it's a like virtual machine only, but it uses some kind of a hardware configuration. Yes or no, guys? Correct. If you have to deploy a Linux machine or a Windows machine, so this Amazon machine is going to use some kind of a hardware configuration. Why I'm calling it as a some kind of a hardware configuration? Because if you go here, okay, and just click on these services, right, just click on this EC2. We are in the which region? We are in the Mumbai region only, right? And if you click on this instance, okay, and just try to launch an instance, okay, so once you try to launch an instance, so are you able to see these are the images? Okay, different operating systems are there, right? Plus, if you scroll down little bit, so it's not just an image of a particular operating system, but it also includes the configuration of your instance type. Whether you want what type of a instance you want, okay, whether you want a T2 medium, whether you want a T2 small, or whether you want to T2 right, large or something like that. Correct. So these are the hardware configuration, and if you go with like T2 micro, I would say a free tier architecture, okay, so how many CPUs you are going to get, how much memory you are going to get, right? So these are the things, and how much it's going to charge you per hour. Correct. So these are basically your hardware configuration. Yes or no, guys? Are you understanding my
Yes,
point?
sir.
Yes or
Yes, sir.
no? Okay. So
Yes, sir.
okay. So based on that only, you are going to decide your Linux machine, which you are going to spin up, and based on that only, you are going to create your Windows machine, guys. Okay. So this AMI is basically you have understand, because this AMI includes everything. This is why when I have read this definition, you guys have not understand, but when I have shown you practically, then you guys have understand, because that includes many configurations, right? What is the types of configuration and what is the operating system? Basically, if you see here, this is nothing but this is the type of operating system. If you see a quick start over here, right, so if I click on this one, okay, so you can see this is the type of operating system. If you are going with Amazon Linux, if you are going with Amazon Linux 2 AMI, if you are going with Mac OS, if you are going with Red Hat Enterprise Linux, if you are going with, so this is what, this is a operating system. Understanding my point, guys? So if somebody is going to ask you what do you mean by Amazon machine image, so don't only tell that it's just a Linux machine. It's your hardware configuration. Basically, it's a complete hardware which you are going to create on top of your virtual private cloud. What is that virtual private cloud over here? So this is the virtual private cloud. On top of it, you are going to create that virtual machine, and that virtual machine having some set of configurations, right? And that includes your operating system, types of configuration. So what all these types of configuration? So in AWS we call it as a instance type, guys. So in AWS we call this as a instance type. So what all these instance types are there? So this is a data, okay, so whatever the data I am providing in front of you, as these are the authentic data, guys. So I'll provide you this link also, don't worry about this one. You guys can go and you can visit also from your end, okay. So if you see, there are a types of instances are there, like general purpose instance will be there, compute optimized instance will be there, memory optimized instance will be there, accelerated computing instance will be there, storage optimized instance will be there, and HPC optimized instance will be there, right? And this we also categorize in term of M series, C series, R series, P series, I series, and H series. So as per your requirement, okay, you can choose these instances, guys, and this is a interview question also. So what all series are available? They are not going to ask you what all types of instances. They are going to ask you, okay, what all series are available? So where you are going to get this one? So you see here, if you click on this general purpose instances, so you are going to get all M series instances. Are you understanding my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Correct. And if you are going with compute optimized instances, so you can read the definition later on, guys. And same thing, if I click on this instances type, right, so are you able to see this one? So what is this instances type? T2, right? This is T series, correct? There will be C series. So how you are going to identify? Okay, suppose if I, as a, like, if you are a architect, or right, if you are doing some kind of a Excel work also, correct? So in that case, for your production environment, somebody is going to told you that okay, go ahead and take the C series. So how you will understand this instance is more focused towards where? This instance is more focused towards. So here you can see, so if you need a instances where 20 means, it depends upon your requirement, guys, totally. So this is why this is something I have written over here. This is very important because it helps you to calculate the costing of your VPC or your infrastructure. So whatever the requirement you have, according to that, you have to choose your instance type. Getting my point? Yes or no, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. So guys, there are some other type of your
मतलब
instances
हम
will be.
अपनी इच्छा अनुसार.
Yes, yes. Please go ahead,
हेलो
Yogesh. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
सर. सर मैं कह रहा सर मैं कह रहा था कि जैसे कि कोई भी इंस्टेंस हम बना रहे हैं तो उसमें कोई भी सीरीज ले सकते हैं, एम सीरीज, सी सीरीज.
No, no, it's not like that. Suppose if you're normally designing your, it's like, just understand, Sumit, lemon example. Suppose you are, you have to buy a desktop, okay? So you are a hardcore gaming person, okay, who plays a game a lot. So what type of a configuration you need at that time? Whether you need lot of space? No, right? You need more memory, right? Where the VFX, sorry, not VFX, your graphics card. Okay, so your graphics card should be supported by the RAM and all. Understanding means, because the game and all, it's required a lot of utilization of your memory utilization, right? If you play a game, so it's going to consume lot of memory, right? Because those games are like, they have created those games with a very high configuration, I would say, right? Means like you need a very high configuration and desktop to play those games. Yes or no, guys? Tell me. Correct? So it depends upon your requirement. Correct? So suppose if you need a instance where you need more memory, so you can go with memory optimized instances. Where you need, see, if you go here, let me share. If you see here, right? So or you, in case if you wanted to go with a you read this one, the feature also you can read, right? So the power by custom built AWS gravitation 3 processor, right, features the latest DDR5 memory that offers 50% more bandwidth compared to DDR4, right? So these things will be planned before only, guys. Okay, I said, whether your networking is something which we have already done. Now we are getting into the instances. So every means every steps you need to calculate your costings. Why? Because see, if you go with something which is not required, so ultimately it's a loss for the organization, right? Where you don't need that much of a configuration, correct? If I have to install a single application, then why I should go with compute optimize or memory optimize or accelerated computing, or suppose some instances which required lot of space, correct? So in that case, because we don't know how much the data will be getting going forward, right? Suppose you have already developed an application which is going to consume lot of data, right, in the database. So how you are going to manage those data, right? So you need a instance who is storage optimized. Understanding my point, guys? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
It's very clear and easy, guys. Means as per your requirements. So if you, it's, you can take a normal example also, if I would say, like, again, so if your running is hardly, I would say, 5 kilometers or 20 kilometers every day, right, within the city, you are not a hardcore traveler, right? So in that case, what you are going to buy a small vehicle, right, or a EV vehicle, which is going to save your fuel also, fuel cost, correct? So I'll go with that EV. Understanding my point? But if I am a traveler who used to travel across the India, so I need a vehicle, okay, which should less where I should manage my costing also, and I should be able to travel across the India. Correct. So I need a bigger vehicle, obviously, and that the vehicle either you can go with petrol or a diesel, but obviously which is more cost optimized, diesel only. Correct. Because EV it's not going to, because if we have infrastructure like that where EV will be supported, then we should go with EV. But if you have to travel 2000 kilometer or a 3000 kilometer, right, then which one you are going to choose? Obviously a diesel vehicle. Yes or no, guys, tell me. So it's totally depends upon your requirement. What is your requirement is there, according to that you have to optimize the cost, and you have to means create those instances. Correct.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so these are the instances types, guys, and I have shown you where you can check all these instances type. So you can see in this one. Okay, now there is something. If you see this diagram, okay, so you know there are two types of instances basically. Okay, so if you go with a Linux machine, Linux virtual machine, you can create a Linux virtual machine. If you have to create a Windows machine, you have to create a Windows machine. But suppose you have created a Linux machine. Okay, so the if you have to connect to those Linux machine, okay, here you have gone, right, you go to EC2 dashboard and you are launching an instance, right. So if you have to connect to that instance, how you are going to connect to that instance? So this is very simple and easy. That in this case, guys, what you need to do is there is .ppk file will be there and .pem file will be there. Okay, so Linux machine, if you want to connect to any of the Linux machine, then you need to use .ppk file. And if you have to connect with a Windows machine, we need to generate a .pem file. Correct. So what is this .ppk file and .pem file? This is nothing but this is your key pair. Understanding my point?
Okay, sir.
Correct. So this key pair is nothing but it's basically your password, guys, and this is your RSA algorithm also. Okay. So for Linux machine also the key pair will be there, and for Windows machine also the key pair will be there. But this key pair will have some extension, like if you know in Python we have .py, right? If you know shell scripting, we have .sh extension. So for Linux machine we require .ppk file to connect to that particular virtual machine, which is which is in your virtual private cloud. And if you have to connect to Windows machine, you can download the .pem file. But see, it's even you can convert your earlier it was only we were getting in the previous AWS infrastructure is .pem file only, guys. Okay, so that we can convert into .ppk file also. Even though you can convert your .pem file into .ppk file, so there is a process. But now there are some tools, SSH. You know, till now we have used MOBA extends. So if you see here, so what do you mean by, if this is also somebody is going to ask you, what do you mean by .pem? Okay, so you can tell privacy enhanced mail. This is something every time we were talking about what is .pem. So this is privacy enhanced mail. And what do you mean by .ppk? Putty private key. So Putty is basically what? It's a SSH client, guys. So now you will understand why for Linux machine to connect to a, have you connected through a Putty to a Windows machine till now? To connect to a Windows machine, even in your production environment, till now, what wherever you guys have worked, you only tell me how you are connecting to a Linux machine. You need a SSH client. Why? Because it uses protocol 22, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that I have already explained in the Linux, correct. But if you have to connect to a Windows machine, what we use RDP, remote desktop protocol, correct. Yes or no, guys?
Yes, sir.
So this is why you can see
Yes, sir.
over
Yes,
here.
sir.
So this is why here if you see the definition is like that only, that a .ppk file is a private key format used to Putty, or you can use any SSH client like MOBA Extend and Terminus also, which is widely used across everyone in the production environment. A popular SSH client on Windows means See, ultimately, you are going to connect to these machines or this through your jump host only. Correct? If you have to connect to, so if you see this diagram, don't get confused. So obviously, if you want to connect to this one, so you need to be in the particular in their network only, right? So there will be one Windows machine. So this is why it is written over here. So this is why thing is that it's client on Windows. So now the same thing we are going to do over here. Okay. So we are going to download that .ppk or .pem file in your Windows machine. And this is my laptop. From my Windows machine, I am going to connect to that Linux machine, which we are going to deploy now. Right. And even it's written that it's generated from a converted from .pem file, as I said, right? So .pem file which you have created, you can convert it into the .ppk file.
Sir, .pem file
Mm,
is been used when we are using window machine as a host, right, sir?
correct. To connect to those Windows machine.
Okay. So connect to those Windows machine which we are going to do as a EC2, right?
Yes, which we
Inside
are going to
AWS.
yes, which we are going to deploy on top of your subnet one. So it
Yes,
could be
got
your
it.
Windows machine or it could be your Linux machine also,
Linux
correct?
machine. Sure.
So if you want, so as a user or as a developer or as an operation engineer, if you have to connect to this zone one machine, then how you are going to connect? Correct?
Through putty or SSH, right, sir?
Right, true. Because if you are accessing those servers, then you need to connect through some SSH client, right? And that SSH client is nothing but that SSH client is basically your terminus, putty is there, and MOBA extern is there. Till now, putty everybody knows, right? And MOBA extern I have already explained. But just see that what all things we before creating there are more things which I need to tell you. Okay, see, in Linux, if you guys remember properly, I have already explained what do you mean by virtualization. Correct. So when in the starting of the session only, I was telling you that we need some kind of a hardware, right? So, just understand from here. See, virtualization is not only in VMware, virtualization is also there in your cloud. So, this is why I told you each and everything is related from your Linux. So, once you have done Linux, then things will be easy for you now. Now, you'll understand why. Okay. So, basically, in virtualization, okay, there are two types of virtualizations are there, guys. Okay, if you see here in cloud, okay, there are two types of virtualization is there. One is your HVM, another one is your PV. Okay, so one is called your para virtual, okay, or you can also call it as a para virtualization. Another, or you can also call it as a hardware virtualization machine. Okay, so let me write it down over here. So what do you mean by this HVM, or what do you mean by this para virtualization? Any one of you remember what do you mean by virtualization? What we have learned, and I have already explained you in the previous in the Linux only, very starting of the session. Have you guys remembered this thing? Let me take you through this diagram. Have you guys
So
remember this thing?
virtualization is a technology where we are going to splice our hardware into the various machine,
Very good.
so we can utilize the full sources resources.
Correct. So, but in between that, I have explained there is something called hypervisor, guys. If you guys remember, again, I am
Yes, yes, I
reminding.
can.
See, each and everything will be coming back to you. Okay. Don't think that cloud is different. So, this is why I'm telling you, I'm relating things. It's not relating. Go and read. It's already written in the AWS document, right? So, this hardware, this hypervisor is what? This is a middleware in between your hardware and your operating system. Yes or no, guys? Correct. But
Yes,
if
sir.
you remember properly, in
Yes.
while we were installing the VMware, I have already told you there are types of hypervisors are there. This hypervisor is nothing but it's a software only. Correct. And this there are two types of hypervisor. One is your type 1 hypervisor, another one is your type 2 hypervisor. So this HVM is nothing but this is basically your bare metal only. Bare metal. Okay, this is nothing but is your bare metal
Type
server.
one.
And this is nothing but this is your traditional architecture, you can call it as a, or you can call it as a non bare metal. Yes or no? Understanding my point? Yes or no? Now things will be easy for you. But if immediately I can ask you what do you mean by HVM, what do you mean by PV, then you guys will get confused, right? But now if I'm relating the same thing, it's nothing, guys. See, the current architecture AWS is using each HVM only. The current architecture AWS is using its HVM only. That is hardware virtual machine, right? The old architecture, if you go to the original documentation also, you can see also, you see from here, this is HVM and this is PV. Yes or no? Correct. And if you see the supported instances type, so just now I have explained you supported instances type, right? So now the HVM is supported by all current generation instance type, supports HVM AMI. But the PV, the old architecture what AWS was using, that is basically only supports C1, C3, M1, M3, M2. So there is a limitation. Now you are understanding my point, guys. Yes or no? These are the interview questions. This is why I have explained this much. Correct? Understanding my point, guys. This link also I'll forward it to you guys. Correct? And if you remember what is type 1 what is type 1 or the bare metal architecture, your hardware will be there, your hypervisor will be there, and on top of your virtual machine, on top of that your this virtual machine is nothing but this is your guest OS, and on top of your guest OS you are going to deploy your application. Understanding? Correct?
Yes, sir.
And if you go with non
Yes,
bare
sir.
metal, or if you are going with a hosted architecture, so you need to take hardware, your host OS, then hypervisor, and then your guest OS, and top of your guest OS your
Yes.
application will be there, your VMs will be, basically guest OS will be there. Correct? And if you wanted to see where it is exactly in the system, okay, so come here, I'll show you. You just go here, instances, just launch a instance. Okay, browse more EMI. See, now you guys will understand why I told this thing. This is very deep and something which you need to understand. Okay, so are you guys able to see here what is written for this AMI? Virtualization HVM.
HVM.
If I have asked you a simple question in interview, what do you mean by HVM? You guys will start thinking, right? It's nothing but it's very simple. Okay, but we need to relate things. This is why we need to learn Linux, we need to learn shell scripting or other we need to start with there only. You see, everything is HVM only. There is any PV, all the operating systems, correct? Even a Red Hat also, you know, KVM, right? For earlier, if you in the virtualization we were use KVM and all, correct? You guys remember
Yes,
that
sir.
one? Same way here in AWS, they are using HVM. This concept is clear or not? Okay. Now there are few more terminology which I need to tell you before creating the instances, guys. Because see, this is also interview question, because this is why I'm explaining this much to you. Okay. So what are those terminology which you guys have to understand? Come over here. Let's go back. So are you able to see here is spot instance, or if you see the instances type? Okay, once you click on instances type, instance is there, right? Dedicated host, reserve instance, saving plans, spot. Basically, this is a spot instance. Spot. What do you mean by this? Is spot request is what? If somebody is going to ask you in the interview that what do you mean by spot request, so what you are going to tell them? That is nothing but that is called spot instances. What do you mean by reserved instances? What do you mean by dedicated hosts, right? So how you are going to answer these questions, guys? So these are nothing but, if you see, there are some like your on demand instances will be there. Like your reserved instances will be there, your spot instances will be there. Why these are the instances we choose? Because it totally depends upon, see, on demand instance let you pay for a compute capacity by the hour or second, minimum of 60 seconds, with no long term commitments. So this free from the cost and complexity of planning, purchasing, maintaining hardware, and transform what are commonly large fixed cost into much smaller variable cost. Again, so it totally depends upon. I'll give a layman example. If you have to travel within 5 kilometer, you are going to take auto, right? If you have to travel almost again more than 5 kilometer, you are going to take a mini. So this is instances are like that only. So this on demand instance is like that only, so into much smaller variable cost. It is the default types. It is most expensive option. No commitments, because you can see how much we are paying here. On demand instance means as per your demand, it will be available to you. So obviously, it will be costlier, right? So it will be, because suppose you need an instance immediately, right? So for that you need to pay, right? So build on an hourly basis, minimum of 60 seconds, right? So same way reserve instances will be there. So these are the basically Amazon EC2 reserve instances provided a significant discount up to 75% compared to on demand pricing, and provide a capacity reservation when used in a specific availability zone. So reserve instances is like it is less expensive compared to on demand. It requires commitment for 1 year or 3 years. It has a upfront cost, right? Lower hourly rate. You commit to utilization. You can relate these things to your day-to-day life, right? So these are the basically some reserve instances will be there. With AWS only will reserve those instances, but when you require those instances, you can go ahead with this one. So you can save a lot of cost into this one, guys. But it totally depends upon in which availability zone you are going to deploy that instance, this reserve instance. Now the this I have already told, right? Reserve instance, RI, correct? And there is something called spot instances, guys. This is a very common question. What do you mean by spot instances? 100% in most of the time they are asking this question. So a spot instances enables you to request unused EC2 instances, which can lower your Amazon EC2 cost significantly. Hourly price for spot instances of each instance type in each availability zone is set by Amazon EC2 and is adjusted gradually based on the long term supply of and demand of spot instances. So these things you can go ahead and you can read it. Exceeds the spot prices. These instances provide unused AWS capacity. It has very cheap hourly rate, correct? Highly scriptable means you can do lot of scripting into this type of instances. It is based on a bid mechanism. You know something, suppose spot instances is like, because it's very cheap, right? So if something is very cheap, then you have to bid for that one, right? Because everybody wants to purchase that one. Yes or no, guys? See, it's mentioned over here also, ideal for raw processing power, grid like applications. So it's totally depends upon your requirement. So these are the some type of instances. See, there is a dedicated host also. So Amazon EC2 dedicated host is a physical server with EC2 instance capacity dedicated for your use and allow to reliably launch EC2 instance on the same dedicated host over time. So these are just definition. Just go through this one. I don't wanted to go this one because I this is why I have explained this one. This is required for interview purpose. This maybe will ask to you in the interview. So you can see in the left side, instance is there, instance type is there. But what do you mean by these things? So go and do some kind of research from your end also, guys. That will be good for you.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we are going to launch the instance, guys. So for that, let's come to this EC2. Okay, so now in the instance, you see that to launch an instance inside your VPC, what all things we need to do, right? Click on this launch instance, right? The name of the instance you can choose. What is the name of the instance you wanted to choose? So it should be same what we have given previously. See, everything we are going to take it from here. Yes or no? Correct. So it's you going to be YouTube QA, and this is what you are going to give Linux.
EC2.
Linux. Linux machine we are see what we are going to do here is you only tell me. So here only we are creating Vishal, right?
Yes, sir.
So same naming convention we need to follow, right? Why you want PC2? I will give. So why I am following this one? Because everything will be identified by you, right? What is the name of your VPC? This one it starts with for it's your own private network, right? So this is why if it belongs to IBM, we have given IBM customer name and what product, what application you have deployed YouTube for which environment QA in subnet 1. Okay, we are going to deploy the QA in subnet 2. We are going to deploy the production one or the testing one. Correct. You have lot of IPs, but as of now we have only subnet 1 and subnet 2. Correct. See,
Yes, sir.
as per the current what VPC we have created, forgot about this one, guys. There is no subnet 3. For what we have created is only subnet 1 and subnet 2. So as per this one QA, I am going to create, or you can take it anything, whichever the environment you want to take. You want to create all three environments, right? So this one is going to be production subnet 2. So this you just take it over here, copy this one and paste it over here, right? Now here, listen very carefully. Since, as I said, if you see, there are types of Amazon machine images is there. Okay. So there are different types of this Amazon machine image is what? This is basically your, if you tell, then you have to tell each and everything in the starting of the session only. It's basically your complete hardware configuration, right? But here it's the operating system which you need to choose. So Amazon, if you see, if you click on quick start AMI, okay, so there are some operating system. These are the images which you are going to see here. So there is one image, one operating system, a Linux operating system is provided by the AWS only, Amazon Linux. It's dedicated to Amazon Linux only. And if you want to go with some other, suppose some open source also, or some license, paid license also operating system, you can go with that one. So you can choose. But what do you mean by this? This is a quick start. But what do you mean by this my AMI? Any idea? So this my AMI is nothing but, guys, if you remember in virtualization in VMware, we create our own hardened templates. Yes or no? See, you want to create the same thing again and again. Suppose you in this subnet, for example, let me open this one once again here. Okay, this is your VPC, right? Let me click on this one. Sorry, subnet, right? So now you tell me how many available IPs you have in your hand. For slash 24, we have taken the range for subnet one. Yes or no? Have you guys remember anything? Slash 24, we
251 IPs, sir.
yes. So 251 IPs. So these 251 IPs, where is that? Yeah. So are you going to create the same, going to do all the configuration again and again and again all the time? No, right? Suppose if you are deploying the same application twice in the same subnet, two VMs you need to deploy, right? Then how you are going to do that one? Or in a different subnet also? Then you have to create your own template, right? So this is nothing but this is like your own image of your operating system which you can create as per your requirement. Same like in Docker. Have you guys know like Docker file we used to do, right? Correct. Docker images we can pull it from Docker Hub, and those images we customize according to our requirement, and then we create those Docker file in the form of images only, and later on we can spin up those images and we are creating our containers. Same way here also you can create your own AMI also, guys, with your own configuration. So once you have created, you can use it for the next time also. You no need to configure again. So here, and there is something called AWS marketplace AMI, guys. So this is something AWS here. See if you Palo Alto, right? So this is a basically a business purpose AMIs where you can also use this AMI. Even if you want to pay and use, this is like, this is for, see if you see these are the organizations only, right? Palo Alto, you guys know this one, correct? Splunk Enterprise,
The
right?
firewall
So
firewall
they are,
company, sir.
so they are using these instances already. And if you want to use their instances for your own like projects and all, you can also take, but you have to pay for this one. This is not free tier. This is AWS. See, obviously, it's, this is a cloud service provider, guys. So he has to do business, correct? So what they told, okay, okay, you can go ahead and you can suppose these are the companies. You see Cisco, they have their own AMIs, correct? It's more than 10,643 AMIs. So the same Cisco AMI, you can use it for your own purpose also, but you need to pay for that one. So just think of it, how much amount you need to pay. Understanding my point, guys? Yes or no? So what they are, so you no need to rush anywhere. AWS is providing everything here only, correct? So you can understand with this also for F5 load balancer, for Cisco Secure, and there is something called community AMIs, guys. Suppose you have built your own AMI, and if you want to contribute to this community, okay, I have created my own Abhishek Roshan AMI. Like Amazon machine image is there, so I have created my own Abhishek AMI, Abhishek Roshan AMI. So if I have to do business with this, suppose I wanted to sell or somebody has to use, it's like you want to contribute, at the same time you want to earn. Like yesterday, Santhan has shown me TopMate, right? Correct. Through LinkedIn, if suppose somebody wants to connect with me for the career counseling, right? So where I'm providing my data, where I'm telling them, okay, you guys can connect, you can pay me this much, and you guys can connect with me for the career counseling or the mock interview. So same way here, this cloud service provider is providing you a platform where you can upload your own AMI and you can get money from there. If somebody is going to use that one, he has to pay you. That's it. See the honor ID, account ID here. Are you getting my point? So it's total business, guys. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Why I have given you
Yes, sir.
this detail and all? Because this is required. You should know all these things. Okay. So let's select this one. We are going with Amazon Linux or Amazon Linux to HVM. Let's go with this only. Volume type 2 or 64-bit x86 architecture. You can go with any of these guys. Okay. So one, and it's basically a 3 tier only. See, its free tier is eligible here, right? So, and you can see for AWS, for Amazon machine image, the super user, the global user also you can see from here only. They are providing EC2 hyphen user. This is the username which you need to use to log into this virtual machine once we have created this virtual machine, guys. Correct. Now let's move on to the next thing is that here you just choose this as it is T2 micro. Here you can see, because we are not going to do so much of here right now. Here the most important part is that if you have not generated the key pair, please go ahead and generate the key pair, guys. So let me show you, because I have already a key pair, but I am going to create a .pem file, and I am going, why I am creating .pem file over here is because I wanted to show you that how it's convert into .ppk. So this one we are going to give a name as a Linux key. Linux VM key pair. Okay. Dot pem only. Let's create this one. Okay, and let it be like this. Okay, now the network settings here is more important. Now you need to do the network settings. So what is our VPC name? This one? Yes or no? Yes or no, guys?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
With in which subnet you wanted to deploy? You wanted to deploy on subnet 1 or subnet 2? Let's go with subnet
One.
2. Anything you can take it, guys. That doesn't matter.
Okay, sir.
One only you take. Okay, one. Fine. So here there is something called auto assign IP, public IP enable and disable. Now this thing you need to understand. Okay. So I'll explain this one little bit here. That is required again once again. So basically there are types of public IP. Okay. In AWS. Have you guys this elastic IP is nothing but, guys, this is basically your I would say it's your static IP only. Okay, and this public IP is nothing but this is going to be your dynamic IP. Correct. So what do you mean by this static IP or elastic IP and all, right? Why we need this elastic IP? Because this is elastic IP is basically it's reserved for your account only. So if in case you have deleted the VM or you have restarted the VM, so it's not going to change. You are going to get the same
आई
IP. Yes,
सर सर वही आईपी चेंज नहीं होगा उसमें,
yes. इसमें
सेम
IP
आईपी
नहीं.
रहेगा क्या?
Yes. Okay, but there are for your account there are some set of IPs from your subnet. Understand again, I am telling. Okay, and I'll explain. Don't worry about that one. But in case of your public IP, this is basically a dynamic IP. Through if you want to connect to that particular VM, so every time, okay, when you delete a VM or I won't say restart a VM. Okay, yes, if you restart also, you will see just terminate a VM, right? So you will get a new IP, public IP get assigned to your virtual machine.
So all will be done in a private subnet, right, sir?
Correct. Right. So let's come over here. Right. So this one, because we have to connect through public IP only. Because this public IP, if you remember, I said because this public IP is dynamic, right? If you have to connect to this virtual machine, you cannot use the private IP, right? You have to connect through public IP only because public to private mapping is there, and that I have already explained through this diagram. This entire the day before yesterday, I have explained everything that how it's going to connect to this VM. Correct? Somebody if has to reach out to this one. See, if you have to connect to this virtual machine, right? So how you are going to connect as of now? What configurations we have given in the last session? If you remember, 0.0.0. From anywhere, right? The traffic has to come. So public to private IP mapping will be there. You no need to get confused. If you click on this one, you will get the information. Okay. Just as of now, understand there are types of public IP will be there. Basically, it's going to be your elastic IP, and basically another one is your public IP, right? And one more thing, guys. So elastic, you say this elastic IP maximum 6 elastic IP you can use for a reason. This is also one interview question. Okay. And here, since you see this security group, so if you remember, there are three types of security or the firewall we have talked about in the previous session, right? This,
NACM.
yes. So this is at zone level, right? And if you if you have to go at server level, then something called security group is there, correct? Security group is there, right? For server level. So this is what? This is your server level only, right? You are creating a VM, so you have to make the security at server level. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So for that, you need to create the security
Yes,
group.
sir.
So at server level, if you have to apply the firewall, then you have to create the security group. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So in this case, we have to launch an instance. So if you see here, that is what it is mentioned here, security group. So you have to mention your security group name. And this is, you delete the previous one, okay? And just mention Linux, okay? Or anything, Linux hyphen SG. This is your security group because this is a Linux machine, correct? Yes or no, guys?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
you have to remove this also. For what purpose you are creating this VM? Linux VM for demo. Okay,
Yes, sir.
understanding, right? Now here the type of, because since we are going to connect through SSH, okay, so we are using SSH protocol. And since in the root also we have used, you can use C custom IP also. If you want to allow only your IP, your private subnet, everything will be private. Okay, nobody can connect to your VPC. Only you, whoever will get that IP, through that they can only connect to that, access that application or the VM, right? But since, why I'm using anywhere, because now I'm connecting it through public IP, so I have to use anywhere, correct? Now here, since now again, so there is something called configure storage. Okay, so in AWS again these things will be there, don't worry about this one, guys. So in storage, in AWS we use something called EBS, right? Why I'm explaining, again one interview question is coming. Elastic block storage, guys. Okay, so this is nothing but instead of disk, have you, if you remember in our Linux we have used disk partitions, correct? SDA,
Yes, sir.
HDA,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes.
So instead of that, here we are using elastic block storage, guys, correct? So here the storage will be ephemeral. Okay, ephemeral. Have you guys heard of this term, ephemeral? How many of you heard of this one? Ephemeral,
No, sir.
storage. So basically, it's not a storage. This is a strategy by AWS. So they use ephemeral strategy to provision their VM. Okay. So this is basically, just try to understand. So if you deleted the server, disk also will get deleted from the server. If you have terminated your server, okay, so your disk will be, or your the storage will be also gets deleted with the server. That is your ephemeral, that is your elastic block storage in this one, guys. It's similarly like your LVM. So in LVM, like from the physical volume only it's coming. So if you, how you are creating your LVM, from the physical volume you are creating your volume group, and from the volume group you are creating your logical volume. Yes or no, guys? But
Yes, sir.
if any of the directory which you have mounted on that particular LVM, if you delete that LVM, so you are going to lose your data. Yes or no?
Right. Yes, sir.
So same way here, EBS is like that only. Elastic block storage here. So ephemeral strategy is that only. So if you have terminated your instances, so you are going to lose your data. You cannot recover that one. And that is what is this one over here. Okay. As of now, we are taking as a 10 GB. Subnet we have selected, right? Correct. Security group we have chosen. This we have done. Okay. Add a volume. Any doubt till now, guys? In the advanced section, there are so many things are there where you can join your directory, like right? Domain you can join. Okay. IAM instance, host type, right? DNS and all these configuration we can see in the later stages of uh, right, this course. So stop, hibernate and all, right? So enable and all, capacity reservation. There are so many configuration which we can do it. Correct. So here number of instances it's going to one. Okay, and let's spin up this instance. Let's launch this instance. So as soon as you launch this instance, okay, so now you tell me how many we have used, how you come to know in which subnet it is. There will be one less IP, right? Yes or no? Correct. So
250.
251 you have seen which time. Now you see it's 250. One IP is gone. Correct. So this is interview question now, that somebody is asked you out of this, right? You have 250. So if you have assigned here, if you see which IP is assigned to this one, go here, mm, in this one. Okay. So you have launched your instances. Correct. Click on this instance. But I have launched the instance, right? Okay. So see here, there is also one thing before I'll come into this part. Now there are few things which you need to take care over here. You see. Okay, this is your instance name. Now you see here, this is interview question. First interview question is that you see status check. So when you are able to see 2 by 2, what do you mean by that? And when you are able to see 1 by 2, what do you mean by that?
System status check, instance status check.
Correct. But if it is less than 1 by 2, then
Matlab, mostly it will be a hardware issue. So we need to stop and start them so that the instance can move to a new host. Um, as far as it knows.
correct. But somewhere you are right, somewhere you are wrong. So in this case, you need to raise a ticket. Means 1 by 2 means it's a hardware failure. You are not able to connect to the server. It's still showing initializing, but it is you are not able to connect to the server. But if it is 2 by 2 means hardware is completely okay, so you can connect to the server. So in that case, you need to raise a ticket. Now
Yeah.
here one more thing I just wanted to show you. Before that, you see this IP. This is the private IP from our subnet, right? Yes or no? From this IP only, one is gone, right?
Yes.
From this subnet, one, you guys only told me, sir, take subnet one. So one IP is gone from here, right? But if I am telling you as a manager, or if I am telling you that, where is that? Okay. So I need 10.0.1.1 to be reserved. I need last IP has to be reserved, and second last IP has to be reserved. Will you able to do it? Yes, because you no need to touch only that only, right? I said there are 5 IPs which you need to reserve, right? The first IP it's going to be, the last IP it's going to be, and the second last IP it has to be. Correct? Total 5 IPs are there, but these 3 IPs you cannot touch. This is going to reserve by whom? This is going to reserve by AWS itself. You remember, guys? No, yes.
Okay, auto reserved.
Okay. Yes. So see here now your it's 3 by 3 passed. Okay. It's 3 by 3 check passed. Earlier it was 2 by 2 check. Okay. But it's showing 3 by 3 check. Okay. Now come to the monitoring part and just see there is something called here network in. See. So this is showing you that you have allowed the traffic, okay, to the current network. View in metrics. So why we are not able to see? Because nobody has logged into this one as of now, right?
Sir. If the traffic comes, it will coming up. Yeah.
Yes. So it will show in network. So this is how these things they will ask you to work as a L1 support, monitoring your instances and all, what traffic and all you are getting and all as a L1 support kind of stuff. Okay. Network in, right? Since you have done most of the things, so now let's go ahead and connect to the instances, guys. Okay, so you can download the putty gen from here. Downloads. Just click on this one. and then so just click on load. So what name we have? .pem, right? All files. So this lvm vm keypair.pem, right? Once you load this .pem file, okay, into this putty generator, then you have to save as a private key, not the public key, guys. Okay, so you can see by default it is coming as a .ppk, right? Linux VM here. Okay, save. Yes. So now you can see the extension is also so the extension is also .ppk, right? Now just open mobile extern. Mobile extern you guys have been using back to back. Okay, so it will be easy for you to do it, right? So here just click on this session. I use this on a regular basis. So we are connecting through SSH. So let's take this public IP, correct? This IP. Just put it over here. And what is the username, guys? Global username. We just now we have seen, right, while creating the instance. EC2 hyphen user. Yes or no? Correct.
Yes, sir.
And in the advanced setting, just click on this one and just use private key. Okay. So once you click on this one, so you are going to click on this Keypair. Okay. .ppk file. Just upload this one. Just do a OK and just accept. So you are connected to where? You are connected to your virtual machine. This is what you can rename this one. Your VM. Okay. What is your VM name? This only, right? Correct. Yes or no? Right. This is IBM YT QA Linux Q1, right? Just clear this one. So same way in Linux, we execute some commands, right? What is that command? Sudo hyphen I. Or if you want to use, you can also use su hyphen. But it's going to ask you the password, okay? Because here EC2 user, it's a global user, okay? But if you have to switch it to super administrator, this is super user. EC2 hyphen user is basically here a super user, okay? But if you have to switch it to root user, then you need to use sudo hyphen I. So you are going to see that who you are. You are a root user now. Now, who is going to tell me if I have to update all my repository over here? Okay. So what command I am going to execute now? Yum
Yum install, sir. Yum update. Y.
yum update hyphen y. That's it.
Yes, sir.
I have already, guys, that much time I have given to you. Now see it's updating. No package marked for update. Okay. Now your operating system is up to date. So in the next session, guys, we are going to see more about your what all the different types of your suppose if you have to deploy an application on top of your Linux VM. Now next job is our that we are going to deploy suppose this website, okay, anything. I'll take my own website free. You can take any CSS template, okay. So we can take it any of this template and all, okay, and we are going to deploy any of this template on top of this virtual machine, okay. So there I'll be explaining what all your basically configuration architecture. See, you have heard of application architecture, you have heard of configuration architecture, you have heard of deployment architecture, right? So that also will be categorized. So once I'll explain that one, so I'll show you how we can deploy this one and how we can see this one through the browser, right? A normal project. After that, there will be more projects, right? So to show a complete end to end that now what all things are required for this VM. See, if you go and see this one, So we have deployed a virtual machine also on top of it, right? But now on top of virtual machine, you have to deploy a application, right? Yes or no?
So
Correct. So for that, we need to deploy the template. So that I'll show you in the next session, guys. In this, and then we'll move ahead with all the remaining topics. Okay. So guys, I'm ending up the session here only. Thank you for staying
good
connected
night,
with
sir.
me. Yes, just take care of yourself, your loved one. Bye bye and Jai Hind.
Change.
Yes.